fingers. We're now a week on from England's exit from the World Cup, and the debate around Thomas Tuchel's performance rages forth. He may have secured our best finish in '66. It's a nonsense, by the way. We've finished losing semi-finalists on 2 other occasions, 90 and 8 years ago. Those are equally our good finishes, because beating France in a meaningless charity game is not any different to us. We still lost at the semi-finals. That's all that actually matters. His tactical meltdown in the final 30 minutes against Argentina cannot be seen as anything other than a massive blunder. Here is the former England defender, Martin Keown, alongside Alex Crook, on whether or not Thomas Tuchel should stay on as England boss.
You don't want a foreign manager, yeah?
I'd rather have an Englishman. I
Okay,
don't think that's unfair.
Okay, so if Pep is available and comes and takes the England job, would you turn that away? No,
I'd still rather
just
have
think
an
about
Englishman.
what you say
I'd
first.
still rather have an Englishman.
What do we've got a Premier League surrounded by foreign managers.
No foreign manager has ever won the World Cup.
Yeah, but I'm not. It's a skewed
Tuchel's
argument.
battling history.
Yeah, but this one might have done it. Maybe he got the closest to anybody else to do it.
You keep saying
He got
that.
closer than Ancelotti got at Brazil.
They were terrible, Brazil.
They were. So did he not understand the mentality of the Brazilians? Did they play like Brazilians? Maybe Tuchel got close to
the
understand.
tournament with Igor Thiago up front with the greatest respect in the world.
What are the
and you say he got closer.
So
Gareth got to 2 European Championship finals. He got to a World Cup semi-final.
Yes, he did.
Tuchel has not achieved anything in this tournament that Gareth Southgate didn't. And I'll ask you this question. Of all the teams that we beat...
So just a minute.
The teams we beat,
you're wrong
give me
there.
one player from those nations that gets in our first 11.
Just a minute, Alex. We'll answer all of those questions, because you just asked 5 questions at once, right? After the break. Because we're trying to do a show here, and I want to give a representation. I am not happy with what we did either, but I'm drawing a line under it. Maybe it's about time some of the people did. You can't walk around with this anger. And if from a professional point of view, they have to build from this. They have finished third. Gareth Southgate didn't finish third. That is something. You just said he didn't achieve anything that Gareth didn't. He did. So get your facts right before you start asking me all these questions. And can we have one question at a time?
Martin Keown getting a bit spicy.
The irony of Martin Keown saying that we can't walk around with all that anger. It's not lost on me.
Honestly, as well, like the way that he's going after Crookie there and saying, and like having a go at him, but all of it while justifying what was, it comes to what you said about the World Cup as a whole, and you have to finish it off strongly for us to consider it an all-time great. Yeah, we beat 3 teams in the top 11 in the world. Great. And we had some great memories. I will remember that win in the Azteca for years to come. It was a sensational night. I remember the DR Congo come from behind, because I was out and I was with great people and I had a good night, and that will be a good, fond England memory to me. But at the end of the day, when we had a genuine opportunity to reach our first final ever, when we've gone toe-to-toe with the reigning world champions and we've been on top of them for 60 minutes, and when you then see how they perform 5 days later in the final and they are just nowhere to be seen and can't even touch Spain with a 10-foot barge pole, I think it's all right to be a little bit angry about how it finished.
100%. And if you were to say to any England fan, your route to the semi-final is beating DR Congo, granted Mexico, but it's still Mexico, and Norway. I mean, you expect to win those games. Mm-hmm. And you can ask producer Jed, you can ask anybody before this tournament, these arguments that people are having right now about Thomas Tuchel and not being English and we should get an Englishman in. It doesn't matter about the quality of manager. I was saying this when he was appointed. Like, international football has shown us over the last 100 years that it's not necessarily about the X's and O's. It's about the Jims and the Joes. It's about getting a group of players together and working towards a collective goal. There's a reason why Ancelotti got sent packing, Tuchel got sent packing, Nagelsmann got sent packing, and the final had 2 managers that came up through the youth systems of the country that are from that country. They're not managers that, if Man United are looking for a new manager, they're knocking on De La Fuente's door. If Real Madrid want a new manager, they're not knocking on Scaloni's door. They're not. But international football is about just understanding the remits of the job and going out there and executing. If you look at Fabio Capello's CV, look at Sven's CV, they're way more full and way more impressive than Southgate's CV. But there's a reason why Southgate was way more successful than them.
But there's also a reason why Southgate couldn't get it over the line. And it was tactical ineptitude. At the end of the day, Gareth Southgate, in a semi-final, a quarter-final and 2 finals, got us knocked out of competitions in games we were either leading or were level late on or should have won. We should have won all 4 of those games on paper. Mm-hmm. We were the stronger teams. We were the stronger teams against every team except France. And against France, if Harry Kane scores that penalty and we've got all that momentum, I think we had a real opportunity to go and beat them, right? But Like, take that example off the table and you look at Croatia and you look at Italy and you look at Spain and you look at us scoring early goals and then shrinking into our shells. And the whole reason that I still to this day will back the decision that the FA made in theory, the theory behind it, because you can only make a decision based on the evidence you've got and what it's going to look like going forward, is that you are going to go and get a manager who in a moment would make a bold decision, who would go out and attack. And you cannot tell me he's continued to justify the decisions he made and continued to say he needed to support them. They dropped deep and I needed to make it work. We needed to plug the gaps. But you offered no outball. You took Anthony Gordon off and you offered no one who could take the ball upfield, who could just win a throw, who could win a free kick, who could just take some actual pressure off that back line. There was no way they were ever going to hold on for 30 minutes against that team in a way that even Spain did it against Argentina, where in the last 15 minutes, despite Argentina being down to 10 men, they took a lead and they shrank back a bit. And this idea that Messi is such a messiah that you have to treat him with that level of reverence. If we'd gone out and been bold, I truly believe we'd have won that game of football. And I don't care if he's German. I don't care if he's English.
I do.
I really could not give a monkey's.
It
either
matters,
way.
Will.
I don't think it does.
Will, it matters. It does
really
matter.
don't think it does.
In the history of the World Cup, there's a reason why there's not been a foreign manager to win it.
But the World Cup is only a thing that happens every 4 years.
Yes.
And the number of foreign managers that manage major nations, like I'm talking about the nations that win World Cups, and let's be clear, we're the only nation left with only one star on our chest, right? Every other team who has won the World Cup has won it at least twice. The nations you see who have foreign managers tend to be developing nations nations coming through. So that's why we've never seen a foreign manager win it. I'm saying that if a foreign manager had taken charge of this Spain team, if you know, whether it was Thomas Tuchel, if it was Jose Mourinho who took charge of the France team of 10 years ago, if it was whoever it had been, those people could have won a tournament with that team. I think it is just about sample size, and I do believe a foreign manager absolutely can and one day will win the World Cup. I think this idea that it's foreign manager is an issue.
No, because international football is literally the definition of tribalism. It's us against them. And so I feel like for a nation like England that are so bold and so proud about football, to a point where football is like a religion in this country, the fact that we can't find an English manager to go and do a job is embarrassing.
Oh, it's a huge failure.
It's embarrassing.
Huge failure of the FA. Huge failure of the fact that it costs more here to do your coaching badges than anywhere else in the world, despite the investment and everything else. But my point about it is that it does not matter to me that Thomas Tuchel was German in the moment he made that decision. What he did was made an English decision in the moment for England. And the same decision that every England manager has made in the past.
And I agree. And I do think that Thomas Tuchel is culpable in part for the collapse of England. But when he says it's the DNA, it's the DNA. When Graham Souness says, Graham Souness, one of the greatest midfielders of all time, looks at centre midfield and says there's not enough football in Elliot Anderson and Declan Rice, he is right. When you look at the Euros 2 years ago and look at some of the decisions that Gareth Southgate made, there were decisions to win us the game. Against Slovakia, he brings Ivan Toney off the bench, he gets an assist in extra time for the goal that wins us the game. Right? And he brings Ollie Watkins off the bench for the goal that wins us the game against the Netherlands. He brings Cole Palmer off the bench for the goal he scores in the finals to equalise. Sometimes players need to manage games. When you look at games of football, look at international football, players are the ones that need to take onus of the situation. When Spain went 1-0 up against France, they didn't retreat. What Rodri did was got his foot on the ball and started playing football. I didn't look to De La Fuente, I looked to the players on the pitch. So between the 55th minute and the 73rd minute, when the subs were made, when the first sub was made, what did the players do? The players retreated. And so we can look at Thomas Tuchel, but I also want to look at some of these players that it doesn't matter under what manager, what system, they do the same thing every single time.
You're absolutely right to highlight some of those occasions previously. But what you're telling me there is Gareth Southgate made bold decisions against teams that were palpably worse than us on paper. The moment he came up against anyone who was equal to us, he basically pooed his pants and went, oh no, we can't beat them, I'm going to be defensive.
I gave you Spain 2 years ago. Spain, he brought Cole Palmer off the bench, he scored and we couldn't hold on to it.
But you talk about the decision in this game, right? You talk about that whatever it was, 18 or so minutes between that. And you're absolutely right. The midfield wasn't good enough. They did not put a foot on the ball. We only had, I think it was 25 successful passes from when we scored to when they scored. And there was that 18-minute stretch that everyone talks about where it was like 2 successful passes. And that was John Stones and Jordan Pickford knocking it back and forth to each other. That isn't good enough. I'm not denying it. But the message that was sent from the bench, the message that is sent at the hydration break, the decisions that have been made in those situations, The fact is, what was the score at the hydration break? Yes, they retreated into their shell, but you got 73 minutes and we're still winning a game of football. In that moment, that is why you've been paid £8 million a year, is to in that moment rally around. Not have Jordan Henderson give a big rallying speech ahead of a third place playoff, which means absolutely nothing. Great, wonderful. What a wonderful decision. Not to have Anthony Marry getting all emotional at half time of a third place playoff because all these boys, I'm so proud of them. You had a moment there where you could have changed not just the fortunes of that game, but the fortunes of the English national team from the last 60 years, and you completely pat the bed.
And what I would say to that is, you are talking to a Chelsea fan who I thank Thomas Tuchel for delivering the Champions League in 2021. He also managed Chelsea in 3 other finals, where he did similar things to what he did in that semi-final against Argentina. We lost the final against Leicester and Brendan Rodgers, a team that were worse than us under Thomas Tuchel. We lost 2 finals against Liverpool, where Chelsea retreated because he wasn't brave enough. This is a Thomas Tuchel that hangs his hat on the Champions League win in 2021, but he has lost multiple big finals. Let's not forget, he was the manager at PSG when they lost the Champions League final in 2020 against Bayern Munich. So he has lost multiple. He's lost more big finals than he has won. So when you look at the FA and say, we want to hang our hat on this guy who's a guaranteed banker, what I say to the people at the FA is he's not a guaranteed banker. Go and look at his track record. And so we can think about 2021 Champions League record. But Thomas Tuchel is a manager that is not a guaranteed banker in the biggest moments. And we've seen it multiple times at international level and at club level.
Whilst you and I clearly do agree on one thing, which is the FA's failings here, right? And they absolutely have failed the system in general. They've put millions of pounds in St George's Park, into pitches, into development, but the coaching has not been good enough. The development of the coaching hasn't been good enough. The thing that I have found astonishing from the has to be an Englishman crowd over recent days is Pep Guardiola 2 years ago was going to take the job and ended up extending at Man City, but he had a verbal agreement. So we know he is interested or would consider it. Rory Jennings would take Graham Potter as England manager.
So would I.
Over Pep Guardiola.
So would I.
What in any way has he shown that he would win a tournament and Pep Guardiola wouldn't for England?
And we've clearly distinguished that international football and club football are very different things.
They are undoubtedly.
There's a reason why Carlo Ancelotti, who's managing Brazil, went out to Norway.
Well,
Ancelotti's one of the greatest club managers of all time.
But let's also talk about the fact that Brazil have failed their national team for 8 straight years, really 12 straight years prior to that. The development of midfield talent, the development of offensive talent. There's a lot of other factors that weren't Carlo Ancelotti. They didn't lose that game against Norway because of Carlo Ancelotti.
But does Pep Guardiola win that game? Probably not. You can only work with the tools that you've got, and I don't think we've got good enough midfielders to win an international tournament. That's the bottom line. If we're saying that Elliot Anderson and Declan Rice are midfielders going forward for the next 5 or 10 years, we're not winning anything. They're not good enough to keep the ball. They're not good enough to relieve the pressure in those high leverage moments. And Rodri and Olmo and Ruiz are, and that's where international tournaments are won.
This is the difference, though. They're both better players than Olmo. They are both better footballers than Danny Olmo.
English arrogance. No, they're not.
No. Listen. Anyone who has actually watched Danny Olmo play most of his football for Spain and most of his club football in the last 5 years will tell you that those are 2 players who have performed better at club level than Danny Olmo has. Olmo wasn't in this team because Pedri was in this team, but what they did do, and this is where I am agreeing with you, not about the nationality of the manager, but about the whole approach to the way the England team is that they looked at it and they went, Pedri in there, Fabian Ruiz, there's just no balance. What Danny Olmo does is creates us balance. He's not individually brilliant, but he creates a balance in the side. And that's why our best performance by country mile is when they went, do you know what? Let's have more balance. Let's take Declan Rice out of the side. Let's have playing a pure pivot at 6, because Elliot Anderson is a good pivot. He can play that role and he can be good. He's not Rodri, but then again, that's like being like, oh, I've got a winger who's worth 100 million, but he's not Lionel Messi, but he's not Mo Salah. It's like, yeah, compare them to the greatest of all time to play the position is unfair. But when they played him and they played Bellingham as an 8 and they played a proper 10 in front of him, oh my God, there was so much balance in the midfield, and they passed the ball around and they retained it. And
you can say he's not Rodri. You can say he's not Rodri, but against Argentina, who didn't come to the finals to play football, Elliot Anderson wasn't even Enzo Fernandez or McAllister. Like, Argentina were playing the football against us. They are not good enough. I'm sorry. The development.
I think they can be good enough. I think in the right
they're
system.
Just not.
I think in the right system they can be good enough. I really believe it. Sorry, Jeremy, we'll break. It's just good. It's a good chat. We'll talk about some of the players as well going forward. It's time to get stuck into some Chelsea as well. There's an argument I will win. Coming up on the social on talkSPORT 2.
Ultimate Sports Radio.
What a moment!
This is talkSPORT 2.